Welcome to the Football Critters Podcast. Your host, the Otter, and my co-host,
the Bear.
And today we're going to be talking about our top 10 linebackers, the upcoming 2024 draft. Is a million years in the future. But anyway, 2024 draft linebackers. What are your thoughts on the class as a whole, Mr. Bear?
I got to be honest, I haven't been covering going too heavy into the draft for maybe more than, what would you say, 8 years?
You specifically?
Yeah, probably about 8 years. I've been really looking into the draft a little more every year. But I got to say, I think this is the most least talented draft I've ever watched. I just feel like there's a few really good players at the top and then a bunch of round picks at best. There's some guys to look in here for certain things, but I just feel like there's a lot of negatives with a lot of guys, like issues that aren't going to really NFL. Even the way some of the run stoppers are, I mean, their technique is just bad. They're hitting too high. They don't get low enough. Their vision's bad in a lot of cases with the guys outside the top 10. I mean, usually there's some guys projected like 6th, 7th round that I fall in love with every year. And this year I see a lot of these guys as just players that aren't going to make it.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this class specifically that you're going to find a bunch of role players that aren't going to really be full-time starters. Some developmental guys that are athletic but don't really have either the experience or shown the insane upside that previous ones has had, previous draft seasons has had. And yeah, but I mean there is a lot to stuff to take away just because I don't think there's a crap ton of 7th round picks in here, but definitely a lot of day 3 guys that if you're just going to take a shot on someone, or have a specific role in mind that you'd like to fill that's more niche. I think there's tons of guys for that. There's probably maybe 4 for me. I think there's 4 to 6, 7 that could be good, I think. And then there's maybe 3 that I'd probably be most confident in drafting. But I will say, regardless, none of these guys for me are 1st round picks. So
no, I totally agree with you. Yeah, I agree with the top 6. I had to look back real quick because I was like, is it top 6? Yeah, it's definitely the top 6 for me. I mean, some of these guys could be 2nd round picks, and I think they'd be quality 2nd round picks. But I mean, when I compare them to last year's draft, I just feel like a lot of the guys last year I was a lot higher on.
Yeah. Yeah, the last year's draft I did like last year's draft a lot.
I mean, Simpson and what's his face out of Iowa? I mean,
yeah, Jack Campbell.
There was another guy too. Who was the other one? There was a guy who was on the same team as him. Then it was,
I think it was Drew Sanders as well. Diane Henley.
Oh, Sanders, the kid from Arkansas who was, he was with Alabama for the first 3 years.
Yeah. Not even looking at last year's draft, it wasn't that top heavy either. It wasn't that incredible. It's just for me to pick linebackers up this well because it's kind of the development track for the NFL's a 3-year curve anyway.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard for linebackers to start off and be fantastic. And this is going off for it's pretty well known. I mean, linebacker is probably one of the hardest positions to play on defense, and how you play that and how you get coached into doing that, takes a certain type of genius and athleticism, not genius, but you have to have a lot of football IQ and how well you can learn and be coached up. It's hard for, us, since we're not technically scouts talking to these players and we don't know their full football IQ, and there's a lot of players to cover. So it's we have to go off what we see on tape. So, and based on what we see on tape, for the 2023 draft and the 2024 draft specifically. Not like tons of crazy good guys, but let's start off our top 10 since
Yeah,
we're
that's
doing
fine.
the 24 draft, not the 23 draft.
Yeah, absolutely.
So number 10, Big Bear.
I have Maris Liafu out of Notre Dame.
Damn, you put him that low.
Yeah, I mean, look, I love his versatility. He's very athletic. I just thought his tackling was very high. I really just don't think the way he tackles is going to work in the NFL. I
He does
also,
tackle high. You hate that, don't you?
well, okay, but to follow that up, he had one of the highest missed tackles stats of anybody I looked at. He had 18% missed tackles. That is
Well, that was last year.
But
I
if you
mean,
compare that to some of the guys at the top who had 4%, that's significant.
I think there's only one guy I saw that actually had. There was like maybe 2 or 3 guys, and even the top 5. Sorry, only one guy in the top 5, 6 actually had single digit career.
There was a few.
Well, anyway, so what else do you not like about him or like about
You
him?
know, I think he could work on his coverage. I definitely think he would be a liability in the NFL the way he covers. It just he just gets beat all the time. In coverage, he did seem a little lost to me. I just he definitely seemed to hesitate quite a bit. I'm trying to remember what the school was they played against that it was very obvious. I can't remember offhand, but one of the better teams they played that last year, he hesitated a lot in coverage to a point where he was a liability.
I mean, I definitely see the hesitation for sure. It always seems like he takes him like a second or two to diagnose the play, and it ends up him being late on some of them. I think he does have the athletics though
Oh
to
yeah,
get into the position or make up for these mistakes some of the time, especially as he gets and learns the positions more. Then his internal clock will be a lot better, and maybe he'll get to that place a lot quicker.
yeah. I mean,
And
it
the nice
depends on
thing
the organization he ends up in, but yeah.
And the nice thing I really did like about him is like even for coverage though, and he's getting beat and he's letting people catch the ball, he does not let people pass him on Yak though that much.
No, he
Like
does
he's
not.
right there every time and he's tackling and limiting it Yak. The only time like his missed tackles usually come from being out of position in the run game. But in pass pro
Or in scrambling.
or in scrambling, he
Yeah.
does like take his angles a little too far out or too far in.
And like I said, he just gets too high in tackling. He needs to lower those shoulders a little better.
Yeah, but
Get a little
well,
squatted.
his measurables were so good to me
They
that I
were
thought that like
absolutely.
he was worth a little bit higher because it's like his arms are long enough that he can keep guards at bay where he can learn even if he's not that great at shedding and tackling and standing up guys, he can learn that. Hold
Well,
the guy up and then take the tackle. And once he learns to be more disciplined, and the other cool thing is he's got great instincts. Like he knows
yeah.
like he can when he sees something happen that doesn't sit right with him, he responds quickly and he adapts quickly.
Well,
It's
I wouldn't
just
say he responds quickly. I would definitely say he
he
hesitates
doesn't
quite a
when he
bit.
doesn't know what's going on, he doesn't. But when he realizes what's going on and like it's not the original thought in the play, he's already there. Like he picks up screens really well. Like when he sees that like linemen are not like things are too easy. He's smart enough to be like, oh, I need to go this way and follow the running back.
But I do believe that his talent did not show up as much when he played against teams of the same strength. Because there was a few games that I watched and I was like, wow, he looks really special here, and it was against small schools. And but when he was around equal competition, I didn't see the same things. I mean, look, from his his athleticism and his size is is something where his ceiling is pretty high
Yeah.
if he can work on his football IQ, if he can work on this hesitation thing he has, and some of his technique. But as of right now, yeah, I mean that's why he's at my number 10.
Yeah. I mean, I completely understand. Depends on what you value. I mean, I think you're not wrong in anything you said. So those were definitely some of his legitimate weaknesses. And I actually wouldn't be surprised though if they try to take the cerebral part out as much and try to convert him to an off-ball linebacker if he bulks up a little bit more. Because it looks like Notre Dame actually tried experimenting with that and putting him on the edge a lot for a lot of blitzing. But I don't know if he has the arms for tackles. Like I know he can
I
handle guards,
he didn't seem
and he might not have the exact. I mean, it basically would be like Zaven Collins converting. I
yeah,
don't
but
see it being
Xavier
that way.
Collins had a bigger body.
That's fair.
He was kind of more built for the edge, where I think he's way too lean. Like he'd have to bulk up significantly to be off the edge. I also would really like to see him.
I would like to see him try it out. Like if you find out he's got his athletics and bend is pretty good, that maybe you can use him as a speed rusher. I just don't really see. And at that point, he'd be a
Like
rotational speed rusher. But
I'd say 2/3 of the plays I watched of him where he was off ball and he went in for a blitz late. He was really good at hidden gaps.
yeah,
He did get. It seems like he did progress through the season in that. But
yeah,
like I said, I mean, he still has stuff to work on, but he has very good
yeah, he's a raw guy.
athletic
That
traits.
he's definitely a raw guy. You have
Yeah.
the right system around him and limit his weaknesses. I think you make it be an impact player. But
His last 3 years of college, he also of pretty much every my list, he had one of the lowest amount of games played.
oh, really?
Yeah.
So he's really raw then.
I mean, he played 25 games in the last 3 years, which was the lowest.
Most of these guys are having like 50, but a lot of these guys are also older. Like they've been playing for like 4 or 5 years.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
Totally agree.
all right. My number 10 is actually Steel Chambers from Ohio State.
He just missed my list.
Really?
Oh no, I'm sorry. No, I'm mixing up. Here. I'm sorry. I messed up.
Nah, it's all good.
So
Why did you put the player in the wrong ranking?
no. I was mixing him up with another player. I actually have him as my 7.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I really liked that. So the cool thing about him is his frame obviously isn't that big, and he can get bullied off the ball. And if he gets
Agreed.
caught by a guard, he's pretty much screwed. But the cool thing about him is, though, I don't know. Do you know he played running back for 2 years?
I do know that.
So when he played running back, you can tell that he kind of knows where the running back wants to go. And he kind of finds himself putting himself in that position a lot of the time. I think that really helps him in run defense better than I thought it would be with given his size.
My first note on him was puts himself in good positions to make a play. Yeah, I thought that was the clear outlier about him, and that's why I put him as 7.
Right.
I just think he did I think he needs to work on his IQ.
Right.
But man, there was a lot to like in his football intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, he just navigates through traffic pretty easily too. He's used to being in those tight spaces and just going right
Yeah.
through it.
I mean, he's another guy that I saw some poor tackling techniques from.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
But I did think all around he was pretty decent at pretty much everything.
The only thing that kind of bothered me is that it seems like he kind of lacks the instincts of some of these other players, because it's like he tries to think too hard about the play, because you can see him hesitate if he doesn't know it, like kind of Murray's. But like his is more like it seemed like he's overthinking. Like he's not even moving sometimes until he needs to go in my head, but in what I've seen. But I don't know if that's an instinct thing or if that's just what they told him, just to wait until you see it and go. And like I thought that's just coaching. But it just seems like, to how I saw his body language on a lot of these plays, he's just overthinking, so he's staying still until his decision has been made.
On the other side of that, a guy who we're going to be talking about in this top 10 was also right next to him, and it seems like they were using him more in blitz than they were using Steele.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of the balance between the two linebackers, and one's going to be better at the blitz than the other. And I definitely think one was a better pass rusher than the other, for sure.
Well, I mean, definitely Steele. Like he's going to be the guy that can easily take out people in the stretch run game. It's going outside, outside stuff.
Oh
he's
yeah,
able to reach those quickly. He's able to get out into zones or get to pass catchers a lot faster. He's just, I don't think he has the same athleticism to be consistent at that. So that's why I don't really have him as like he's going to be just a role player that's going to have to develop. And I think he can. To me, he's basically a backup linebacker that's going to come in and play and probably take a role in and not hinder a defense with his experience in the run game and his speed to cover running backs and play in zone.
So I didn't actually look this up about him, but I mean, to me, he looks like a special teams player. Like he could be a special teams ace. I don't know how much of that he did at Ohio State. I'm gonna have to actually look into that.
Right.
I'm a little curious, but I mean, there was a lot of things to like about him. I thought he was pretty versatile.
And if like the size and stuff, you can have him as a dime backer too, like on packages, certain packages.
Yeah.
If you'd rather just him come in on third downs or on longer downs to mix and match players, like he can be a solid rotational guy.
Absolutely.
Doesn't have to be strictly someone gets injured and come in.
And his speed was pretty good. I mean,
let's get on number 9. So I'll start this one. My number 9 is the other Ohio State guy, Tommy Eichenberg. He's my number 9.
9.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
So I like him for pretty much all the opposite reasons that I liked Steele. Eichenberg was more of that bigger bowling ball, stocky dude that's gonna not afraid to get into the traffic and just jumble shit up around and
yeah, his power was very good.
His strength is like and like hands, he's so good with his hands when linemen try to get a hold of him. He's like swiping away, he's just slipping by, pushing them back. He uses those leverages to weave back through traffic and stuff. And, I think he's really good, really pretty much at the box, like you want him down at the line of scrimmage all times. Because if he's not going to cover, you're going to blitz him. If you're not going to blitz him and it's a run game, you're going to be there. He's going to try to be there. I just find I just don't think he has the speed if he's being caught in coverage to like with all the great tight ends out there. Like he's not covering a tight end.
Yeah. He's a thumper. I mean, that's what he is. But I think he might be the second best thumper in class.
It's hard to say.
I mean, his pass rush, the way he does it, I don't think anybody else can in my top 10.
I mean, if you're talking about a thumper of a guy who's just pretty much good at going forward, then sure. Yeah,
I thought he was pretty much the best
up there, top 3
in that category. I actually had him as my number 5. But that was contingent on another player's history.
Well, if we're going off who I had it for Maurice, by the way, I actually have a Maurice at 1. He was my 6.
Wow, I
just really liked his athleticism, and I really liked his recovery speed. Like you can tell he's learning. But regardless,
another thing with Eichenberg, Tommy, I mean, he's the co-captain of the defense.
Yeah, he is a leader for sure.
I really liked his eye for the ball. I mean, he seems to hit the hole perfectly. In a lot of cases, I really think his football IQ was pretty good. And that, like I said, his power, like the way he could get off offensive linemen, was pretty impressive in a lot of games.
I just think because he's a shorter guy though, and then the funny thing is, I think he loses sight of the ball in run games, especially if it's like power. You can kind of see him just if he's in the middle of the whole scrum of all these O linemen and D linemen like battling it out. I think he loses sight of the ball a lot of the time because you can see him being just totally pushing himself, or sometimes he's just basically just stuck in the wash and he's like gets out of position and he doesn't respond well a lot to cut back lanes. Like he wants to be in the mesh and getting into the backfield, and sometimes he leaves some lanes open for running backs. But I really like the guy. I mean, he has a lot of value in being an early down backer. I don't really want him on passing downs unless you plan on mixing up a lot of blitz coverages.
I'm actually really surprised you say that because I actually didn't mind his coverage skills. I mean, I don't really see him on a slot receiver.
No,
but I think he could cover.
I mean, in zone, I like him.
Some of the tight ends in this league. I mean,
he's a smart guy. He can play zone.
In zone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I'm only putting. If he's in a zone system, sure.
But I think
he'd be great in that. But
I think the coverage skills he has are definitely towards the top of the list for sure. I mean, I wouldn't say he's the best. No way. No way.
No, he's not a liability. If he just gets caught in man or if someone faster is coming across his zone, I just don't think he has the speed or the explosiveness. Unless it's in front of him, I just don't see him.
I also think his shifting from, going back into coverage to blitzing on a play, when he's reading a play.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. I mean, he seems to shift his direction very well. for a guy of his size.
I don't know. I don't know how much I've seen that, but
So the next guy on my list here might be the heaviest boomer bust without
this is your number 9.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's probably my biggest boomer bust guy on this list without accounting for injuries. And I had Jalen Ford there from Texas.
Jalen Ford.
Yeah,
Okay.
I really like the way he could read an offense as well. And I thought all around, there was a lot to like. I thought his pass rush was a little weak. But I mean, I rated him as one of my highest coverage guys. I thought his run defense, reading the run or reading a screen was really good.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot to like there. Even when Overshown was there last year, when he was the Mike linebacker, I mean, this guy being next to him was one. It was like 1A, 1B. I mean, it didn't seem like one was better than the other. And I really thought a lot of him. I also thought, yeah, his decision making was really good, and he's fast.
No, I mean, he definitely has the size. And like, all right, I know we said there's probably only a couple of guys that we think is a 3-down backer. He has the size and the athleticism to do it if he'd be
Are
like you
you
said,
sure
if
he had the
he
size? Because I had him actually rated as my lowest size out of the top 10.
where I was reading that from then. Let
Uh,
me see if I can find him.
yeah, I'm curious what his size is now.
6'3", 242.
What
Like
the
that's
heck?
big as hell. That's why I was like, he's a
Yeah, what
huge big
did
boy.
I mess up here? The heck didn't I like about him?
He's probably one of the biggest guys on this list, to be honest.
Yeah, if he's 6'3", what the heck? Where did I get
Not
that?
even the like. I don't even care about the height. Like he's one of the heaviest ones. Like he's got the pretty much frame you kind of want to look for at a 3-down guy. I just don't know how, for his size, he's definitely not the most athletic dude on here though. Like I don't think he really has the range unless he's playing middle linebacker or just one side of the field. And he definitely has the motor that a lot of these back, like the guys in the back of this, you could tell which kind of players have motors and which ones do not. Like
Oh yeah,
are they at the play every time?
he had a really good motor.
Like he's going to be at the ball. He might be sometime he'll be late a lot of the time, but I don't know. He just has the kind of stiffness sometimes where he's also, even when he's in position, he can be juked by some more athletic players. I don't know if he has the agility to kind of get up there, but
Yeah, I don't know why I gave him a 5. I think that's really weird. I don't know if that was a mess up on my end or what, but it had to have been. That doesn't make any sense because guys I put in his size range were around a 7.5 to 8.
well, maybe he's going higher on your list.
He might go up a position. We'll see. He actually did. He went up one position.
Holy crap! So, well, we'll keep talking about him as your current 8, I guess. Maybe we'll do your
Yeah.
9 next, but yeah, I mean, like I said, he's got the size. He's just stiffer for me. Like if he's going 1-on-1, if he has a tackle, make a single on tackle, like, and he's going against a shiftier guy, I think 7 out of 10 times he's kind of getting juked out of it.
I also saw I mean, not that it's very common with linebackers getting off of offense. Like if an offensive lineman touches him, he rarely gets off.
Yeah, that's true. Which is so weird for his size. Like he plays like he's smaller, doesn't he?
He almost has that Devin Bush issue where
Yeah,
the minute an offensive lineman touches you, you turn to stone.
so you can definitely tell the difference with a guy who's attacking the lineman and is just trying to get away from the lineman.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the reason he's not even in my top 10.
I mean, I totally understand, and that's why I had him as like my highest boom or bust guy.
Yeah, I mean, he has the size. I think he could be a 3-down backer if the right training.
And I think his vision is pretty good.
Yeah, I think his vision is good as the play's going on. I think he's just a slow reactor. I don't know if he has the cerebralness for the position at all. I'm not 100% sure on that. In my head, it's what I keep seeing.
He also could transition to strong safety. I wouldn't be shocked.
Be one big boy, soft, strong safety.
Yeah, he would. Yeah, he would.
I mean, 6'3" is pretty good for that.
I know. That'd
Getting
be pretty
some passing
awesome.
lanes, especially if you're playing him at the box still.
Yeah.
But I mean, one thing I did love about him though is that he's a great communicator. It looked like,
Yeah,
like he's constantly talking to teammates, trying to get them in position from what he's seen. So maybe he is more cerebral than I'm saying. Like if he's playing in his own thing, but he's putting him and his teammates in position and communicating.
Yeah,
so I did like that a lot.
His pre-play communication was definitely something I noticed as well. All right, who's your number 9?
Well, I already said my 9 in Tommy Eichenberg, but
Okay.
actually give your current 9 and I'll give you my 8 before we move to 7.
It's JD Bertrand from Notre
You
Dame.
gave Bertrand top 10. I was curious if you were going to give him top 10.
You know, I mean,
So he was 8 originally until you saw his size.
yeah, he's number 9. But he is a pretty awesome thumper. I mean, his power is pretty impressive.
Well, since we're doing your 9, he's actually my 8. So we would have
Okay.
both had him at 8. Yeah, I actually do like JD Bertrand a lot.
But I also found with him, just like the other Notre Dame linebacker, that he also missed a lot of tackles. Now, I thought his
Yeah.
technique was better. I definitely think he was. Most of his tackles did look pretty good. As far as I was concerned, I was actually even surprised when I saw how many tackles he missed.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was one of the higher missed tackles as far as the linebackers in my top 10.
Right.
But yeah, man, he's a thumper, and he's quicker than you'd think he is for his size, because he's a little bit of a heftier linebacker, but his agility is pretty impressive. And he definitely is another guy in this draft who really can do the power
Yeah, he can
moves.
for sure. And he's smart too because
Yeah,
he's the type of guy that's always kind of putting himself in the spot where he knows where it's kind of going. And even if he's not going to be 100% there, he's at least going to try to get himself in a position to make a play a lot of the time. And he's athletic. He does have a little bit more athleticism, I think, than Tommy Eichenberg, to the sense like I think he could actually keep up with at least average tight ends. Like I think he can at least run along with them on seam routes and at least get out to linebackers or running backs. He can get out to running backs pretty quickly if he sees that happening soon enough, like them coming out the backfield or running a wheel route. But he's a smart guy. He's also a great communicator. Like he's doing the exact same thing as Jalen Ford was for you. And he's also one of those high motor guys. Like,
yeah. I mean, he was the clear top linebacker at Notre Dame this year.
yeah,
I
I
think
think
that
he
was
was
pretty obvious.
definitely the most solid
Yeah.
and consistent of the two.
Definitely the playmaker of those two. The other thing is he played a lot of games in the last 3 years.
Yeah,
Compared to
so I mean,
the
it all
other
comes with
guy. I mean,
experience, you know.
yeah, and I mean, I definitely could see a lot of maturity on the football field that I didn't see from the other one, and it definitely showed.
He definitely had those tendencies for hip drop tackles. If you saw some of those,
Yeah,
he likes doing that. And I was like, I'm not a huge
yeah.
fan.
I hope they ban that.
No, I did like JD, and he was my 8, so that makes that a lot easier.
So I told you my 7, who was Steel Chambers.
Yes,
Who's your 7?
my 7 is actually. I wonder how surprised you're going to be. Trevin Wallace. He was the
I can
guy.
understand.
He was the guy that made first guy here that was like, wow, you're in the muck going through all this. Like players are kind of like, okay, fine, I see, whatever. You play the position. Whatever.
He's a playmaker.
I
I
love.
definitely would say
He
that
was
he
the
has
one
the
guy that
playmaking ability.
yes. And when you want in a tight end is like if you're not going to have a guy who's going to be constant technique, at least have playmaking ability. And I think he has that in spades.
Did you say tight end?
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
My bad.
Oh god, you just fucked
Tight
up.
end making
you
ability.
fucked up. He's a really good tight end.
He is.
Loved his catch.
He used to be a tight end. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, the energy the guy plays with is absolutely insane.
Yeah, he's got a motor.
It's not even the motor. Like he wants to hit you. He wants you on the ground. He wants you to make the play. And he's getting himself pumped up. His teammates, you can see the energy it brings out of his teammates on the field because they play harder. Like when he makes a play, it literally is like one of those like buffs that you'd see in like video games where everyone else is also getting buffed up now.
Oh yeah, there was a lot to like about him. But I mean, he was really only used in blitz and run defense.
Yeah.
He wasn't on the field all the time.
No.
Which, to me kind of means a lot. He's definitely not an every down backer. He's definitely a run defense linebacker, which is fine. I mean, there's that doesn't it's not a bad thing, but I had to knock him off a little just because I just don't see him as an every down back.
Yeah.
I thought his coverage was bad.
Yeah. I mean, I liked him in zone. He was fine. He was fine in zone. But there's better players in coverage. He's like Tommy. He's going to be up front. I think he's a better.
And he's
maybe as I'm talking
too.
myself out of him to at least maybe bring Tommy up. But I don't know. There's just something he brings to the game that's like a
His
little
motor,
extra.
his
Like,
motor is
it,
infectious.
yes, like he
Um,
finds the hole every
he
time.
does,
Gets the blitzing, navigates traffic,
but it was pretty. Like I said, it was pretty obvious in a few games I watched.
and he's got long ass arms, dude. Great for rat. He wraps
But
up.
he's still not good in coverage. But like I said,
Yeah,
I mean, there was a few games I definitely watched, and I'm like, oh, he's not on the field that play. Oh, he's not. He's still not on the field. What's going on? Is he injured? No, he's not injured. They just don't use him on obvious passing downs. But otherwise, like that was the only thing I really knocked him for is coverage. I thought otherwise, like he played a lot of games, in the last few seasons. So he's definitely got the experience. I actually had him at 13 on my list. But the thing is at 13 on my list, I gave him a 73 grade, and there was four players I gave a 73 grade to, and one I gave a 74
hmm.
to.
Okay, so he's in
So
good company.
there was
He's a 74 in mine,
there was at least
so
a
I
quarter
think we
of the
see him
players
similarly.
in this draft that were in the 70s for me.
I think yeah, he was a 74 for me. I mean, you're not taking him until early day 3 for me.
I could see, yeah, I
But
could see him being like a fifth, sixth round pick. No
even
problem.
if I like him at 4, to be honest, but you
I think
can
that's a little rich for me. And that's
you're getting a
just my
solid
opinion.
run defending linebacker that has like good energy
But we
and
play in a passing league,
well, yeah, that's fine.
and
You
and
need role players, and
I
I think he's a
agree.
great role player for it. And in the
I
round,
also don't know how much of a special teams player he would be, but that's just my opinion.
oh, he's downfield all day, baby. I think he'd be a great one.
I don't know. I don't know about that. But that's just my opinion. All right, so
So we did your 7. We
we,
just did mine. We're at 6, which was mine was Maurice Liafau. Who's your 6?
mine is really hard to say because I really like this guy a lot, but I had to put Peyton Wilson at 6. I couldn't put him in my top 10. I mean, my
Surprising.
top 5 because the injury history really bothers me,
We're doing a reverse
and
for this skin.
his arm length is another thing that was very
He
obvious.
does have short ass arms for his
I mean,
size.
and I really don't want to hate on this guy because man, he does a lot of things that a lot of these other guys cannot do.
He's
I,
probably the most unique linebacker in this draft for
I mean,
sure. Like
he had like a 4% missed tackles. I mean, there's only one other guy on this list that did that. And I mean, his speed, his agility, it was
absolutely.
all a lot of things to love. I loved his football IQ. I think he reads very well. He was also the team captain, and it was clear that he led that
He's
defense.
also the ACC Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
He's did you also know he used to be a wrestler? Can you tell?
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised based on the way he plays.
Yeah, I mean, you're not getting around a wrestler
And
if you're
dude,
getting tackled.
I will say, knowing how the NFL is with taunting, he's got to be careful coming into the league because I have noticed that he loves to get in the face of offensive players after he puts
He's
them
that
down.
scrappy little gym rat guy, or he's not even little, but
He's
he's that
not little.
scrapple.
His size is very
The
good.
dude's
Um,
yeah, he's aggressive. He's an aggressive guy,
he's
and he wants to make the explode. He wants to make the big play constantly, and he's not even when he's not making the big play, he's making smart decisions if he's not in position. Like
oh
sometimes
yeah,
if he knows he's not going to get somewhere, he's looking for another play to make. If he
he puts
sees
himself in a good position for when one of his other defenders misses a tackle. Like I saw a lot of plays where he let somebody in front of him hit the running back, and he put himself in the right position that if it didn't work out, he was there to take the final kill.
yeah,
Um, I really like that about him because like the teamwork ability that I saw out of him was very rare.
he's just all right, I'll tell you right now, he's my number 2 in
And I
this
don't
list.
blame you because
His upside
if
is
you
absolutely crazy.
if you take his injuries away, which I believe he had 2 ACL tears 2 years in a row. His
Yeah.
senior year of high school he had one,
Yep.
and then his freshman year of college back to back.
Yep. And then a shoulder surgery in 21.
Yeah, and you know something? Even with that stuff in mind, he still looked very fast.
Yeah, none of that slowed him down, it seemed.
No,
Like,
no, and he hits hard. I mean,
if it did, you couldn't tell. I'm like, you could be faster than that.
he's a tough
I
guy,
think his upside was so great, it knocked it up.
and I
It
don't
knocked it up
blame
to
you at
me
all.
because
I will not judge you
the
on
reason
this.
he went up to number 2 because I gave him my highest film grade out of all these guys. His film to me was the highest score.
Best.
Yes, he had the best film
I
grade
think there was one better to me personally, but
because
I will not argue with that opinion because there is just so much to like.
yeah,
And
he was
I
the only one that had actually a 90 film. Like just
and
watching him, not because most people who are athletic and fast and freaky usually like always overdo it. They're too aggressive. They put themselves out of positions a lot. He hardly ever does that,
no, he
and
doesn't.
he's the best linebacker I think in coverage, at least of the top 6 to 7, because he's always playing zone. He's fast enough to keep up with people going across his face in zone. I think he can man up tight ends. If he had longer arms, I can see him being more consistent in that. But to me, he had the best coverage. The injuries
He
obviously
wasn't my
knocked him
top
down to
coverage
my
guy.
2. He would have been number 1 if it wasn't for injuries for me.
Yeah, like I
But
said, I mean, if you ignore injuries, he would probably be my number 2 or 3 easily. I mean, I the next 3 guys ahead of him, maybe one of them I would argue I think I like better. There's just so much to like in Wilson, and I do feel a little guilty putting him there,
mhm.
but these injuries give out some serious red flags. But otherwise, I love him. I mean, I really do.
Yeah, and the fact that these injuries were also like 2 3 years ago, you hate that it's there, and injuries suck it when they happen. So maybe it's not going to be as bad. Like maybe he's over that. It's scary. Like I'm not going to bump him too much because of how far back the last injury was,
I mean,
and he still had. The crazy part is he still had probably the highest number of snaps played out of all these players. He's an older
mm,
prospect though. Because of those injuries, it pushed him back.
I actually had him in the last 3 seasons. He only played 25 games, which was one of the lowest in
Well,
my top 10.
I based mine off number of snaps played.
That's fine.
So he had like over.
He had my second highest ratio of sacks and turnovers of any players on this list. I mean, there's only one that beat him, and we'll be talking about him soon. I mean, his size was just, very favorable, very attractive, for sure.
Yeah, he played over 2,500 snaps in his whole career. So I was like, that's a lot of experience. That's why, I mean, that's probably why he's so smart. But I think in a draft like this, where everyone's kind of hard to gauge your success, taking a home run shot on someone as good as he is with injuries, when all these guys are probably like, I don't think any of these guys get drafted until day 2.
Yeah, I
Might
agree.
as well just take a home run hit on someone who, even if he has injuries, he has all the upside in the world for me.
I mean, to me, he's a
So
third round pick all day.
yeah, I wouldn't be
Um,
mad if you took him to in the second.
Fine. I see him to a mid to late third, just with history
Sure.
and
Yeah, I mean, if they do all the medical work stuff before the draft and they find him, maybe his ACL's just ready to burst again, he'll probably drop to the day 3.
I would not be shocked if he shoots up the board in the next few weeks after the combine. He definitely seems like somebody in the combine that will do well.
Oh, God, the more I talk about him, the more he's turning into one of my fantasy darlings, or my
And
draft
I cannot
darlings.
blame you. All right, who's next on your list?
All right,
At 6.
Cedric Gray at 5.
We did the opposite then.
What? Oh yeah.
Cedric Gray was my number 2.
Yeah. No, he's at 5 for me.
And I feel the same way about Cedric Gray that you feel about Wilson. He is my darling of the draft.
Is that true?
Of linebackers, there's no question. He is my favorite.
He might go higher as I look into him more again, because when I watched him play, I did watch him a little bit before this too. He's in like just an all-out attacking linebacker. Like he wants to hit linemen, he wants to hit ball carriers, he just wants to attack.
And even if he like falls off of a block, he will get up as quick as he can, and he will go at somebody 100%. He does not give up on plays.
Yeah, did he have the most tackles for a linebacker in this draft this year.
He was up there.
120 something, right?
Yeah.
He had a lot.
I mean, to me, he had the highest football IQ. I mean, his ability to diag a play, I mean, was elite. He could really see a play before it happens. I mean, I think he's very smart. I think he also did very well getting off of blocks.
That I did not see,
That's fine.
actually.
But it was definitely something I noticed. He also played very well on special teams for Carolina, so he was on the field a lot.
So I mean, you're at least getting a day
He,
one
he
ready
he's
special team
going
starter.
to he's going to play special teams immediately. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
I mean, he has saved plays. Like I think there was like a fumble recovery he had that
Yeah.
like saved one of the games. I mean, I don't know. To me, he was one of the better tacklers.
Yeah, I mean
in this class,
his burst too is just like
it is. It's very good.
I do love it. I think that's kind of what throws a lot of guards off guard. Haha. All right, sorry. But
I'm disappointed.
no, but he can I think his strength, because his size isn't even that special.
No,
But I think because of all the power, I think people are gonna get surprised by the amount of power he gives when he gets blocked.
I did think his pass rush wasn't the best.
No.
But I mean, as far as coverage and run defense, I mean, he was solid for me. I think he's the only linebacker in this class who I saw as an every down back immediately.
I actually agree with you on that.
I just I found it hard to find a serious weakness with him. I just don't see, other than his football IQ, I don't see a lot of elite traits.
That's kind of what kept him down for me. Is it's always the fight between elite traits versus football IQ. Like, what keeps you there?
It's just
And
the
it might be
me.
more important to have that balance, as we'll find out over time, than it is to have these elite traits. I mean, obviously, you want to shoot for the moon for someone who has elite traits and has the football IQ, and hope they develop the football IQ anyway. The dude, like a jack of all trades, he's not a master of anything. He knows what he's doing. He knows his job, and he knows how the offense is going to try to attack him. He wants to attack them first. That's how he is. He doesn't have the good speed, I think, to like keep up with a lot of speedy players and that he's going to see in the NFL. And I do disagree with the getting off blocks. I think if he's trying to rush, I think he can get off blocks because they're. But if they're coming
pass
at him,
rush. I think pass rush. Like I said, I thought he could be better.
But I'm not. But I think in run defense, if he gets caught by a guard, he's stuck on that guard.
See,
I've had him. I made those notes. When I was watching his snap by snap plays, like I watched every snap on like 2 games. You know, for every like couple of plays he made, he's getting stuck on some guard, like on a guard, and I feel like he's either trying to fight the guard.
Do you remember? I'm sorry. I'm just curious.
I'll send you the
game I missed.
I'll send you the link after this list, but I think he's got pretty much above average instincts, and the experience he has along with it is good. All right. I think we're both getting to someone new for 4 then, right? We haven't talked about. Who's your 4? Or do we do your 5?
I have my 5, which was Eichenberg.
Oh, right.
So that's right. Yeah. Okay. I had Eichenberg at 5.
Good, yeah.
You know, and like I said, I liked Peyton Wilson more, but it's just the injury history and the amount of time Eichenberg has been with a solid defense, and the fact that he's been a co-captain.
I think he's captain twice, 2 years in a row.
Co-captain.
Co-captain 2 years in a row.
Yeah, and I mean, just from his experience, it was hard for me to not put Eichenberg over him, even if all the traits I see from Wilson were very attractive.
Yeah, fair enough.
So my 4 is Junior Colson from Michigan.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I can see why you drop him a little lower.
Now, my issue with him, I feel like he's another guy who could boom or bust.
Yes, 100%.
You know, I felt at times that he was saved by a lot of really good players around him. You know, he is a great pass rusher.
Yeah.
And his football IQ was also pretty impressive. Watching him, and I don't want to say he's at this level, he reminds me a lot of how Micah Parsons played for Penn State when he was in college. I'm not saying that he is the elite athlete to that level,
Right.
but he can do similar things off the edge. He can play off ball. He really has a good eye for the
Yeah,
ball.
you're putting him in a place where he's making impact plays consistently.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, he was my highest graded pass rusher
Yeah.
in this group for sure.
Yeah. I mean, down to down, he's an inconsistent player because I find him a little undisciplined.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's so, like you said, I mean, he's got the raw talent just to be around the ball.
I mean,
And he is like probably one of the lower experience play wise.
actually
No, he's pretty up there too, actually.
he's high
Maybe
on my list. It's also because he played a lot of
yeah, he's high
playoff
on my list
games.
too.
So yeah, he's my highest on my list based off the last 3 years of
Yeah.
play. I only count the last 3 years of play, just because of availability.
Right. I do total
That's
total
fine.
snaps.
That's fine.
And he's still up there, so it doesn't matter. Like, he actually maybe I was a
He
little
didn't splash a lot, I've noticed. I think he had 1 sack this season, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I don't think he had an interception, and he didn't have a forced fumble.
It's kind of weird, isn't
It
it? Like,
is, it
we're
is.
saying he makes impact plays, but he doesn't
But he's
make
always
those
there.
but he is like
He just doesn't
pausing.
flash.
He's making a difference on the play. Every
Absolutely.
time.
He's one of the best players on that defense. I mean, to me, there's no question.
And even in pass pro, which I don't really, or pass like in the pass, which I don't think he's even bad at. But when he's getting beat too, he's kind of like how I said with Maurice. He limits the yak. Like, he's right there every time, and he's tackling. And his tackling, I think, is the best in the draft.
I think I gave him. I was just gonna say that. I think I gave him my second highest tackling grade.
I think he was the highest for me.
And
his form is it's like so natural. Like, he's a natural tackler. Like, he knows the leverage he needs to bring you down. He's not afraid to hit you where he needs to.
He did not cover as much as I would have liked.
Yeah.
But also we need to keep in mind that this is a team with a significant amount of talent at corner and safety year in, year out. I can understand why maybe they would have him blitz more, especially with his talent in the pass rush. But I mean, there's this guy. We could look back 3 years from now, and he could be the best. To me, like, I definitely think the talent is there. I like him a lot.
When you're talking earlier about boomer bust, like, he, I think, to me, was the biggest boomer bust because you're probably picking him higher due to his higher athleticism.
And I mean, national champion.
Yep,
like, there's a lot to like
a big
there.
Chance for him to bust if it doesn't develop. But
on a team that played probably the closest to an NFL style defense. I mean, there's a lot to like.
Yeah. No, I really like Junior Colson.
I did too, and his size was my highest grade too.
I had to put him in third place.
Who did you put ahead of him, if you don't mind me asking?
Ahead of Junior Colson?
Yeah.
Peyton Wilson, obviously. And you'll find out my 1. Right now, I'm going to give you my 4.
I know who your 1 is. It's okay.
My 4 is Jeremiah Trotter.
And I totally get it.
He's got great instincts. He's also pretty heady. Like, he reads plays, and I think he's a pretty consistent playmaker.
He is undersized.
Yeah, of course.
And he's only 6 foot, which...
And his just like the rest of these guys, he has tackling issues.
He does, yeah. And it's very... I felt like his tackling was very inconsistent. Like, there was times where I'd watch and I'm like, oh, wow, he wrapped that guy up really well on that play. And then there was other times where I'm like, man, you're getting so high, and you're a little guy.
But the reason I find him heady a lot of the time, especially when you're doing the blitzes. So it's like, on one hand, his blitzes seem kind of fluky because it's pretty schemed up. It feels like they're making him run like close to the line, but running a what do they call it? Like, when they have to loop around, like, they look like either he's rushing one way, have a runner come across.
Oh, okay.
What do they call that? They say it all the time. Stunts? Is that what it is?
I guess that's right.
Yeah. So they have him run stunts.
Right, but I might be wrong.
Even though he's like not on the line, he's threatening blitz. On the other side of it, though, if it's schemed up, he's also smart when he does blitz, though, because there's like times where he's sitting there, right, and he's threatened to blitz, and the guard's waiting for him. He doesn't go. He waits. The guard moves over to focus on, because he's like, oh, he's just QB spying, and then as soon as he sees it, boom, runs in, tackles, sack.
But one thing that made me put him over Colson was the fact that he had a significant amount of sacks. I think it was like 4 to 6, somewhere in that range. He
Yeah,
had 2 interceptions this year, and he had at least 1 forced fumble. I mean, his as far as game-changing plays, he was one of the better ones in this class.
that's fair.
But as you have said, yeah, it was a lot of it was schemed, especially with the sacks. I also saw a little bit of a drop off this year compared to last year. Not having Simpson next to him,
Yeah,
putting it more in his hands this season, it made it to me. It showed me that Simpson was that much of an impact on that Clemson defense last year versus Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I mean, there's a lot to like about this guy. I mean, and for an undersized guy, I think he's definitely still worth a early third round pick.
yeah. I mean, even being an undersized guy, he's also one of those guys that's stronger than he looks. Like I
Yeah.
think he can take on a block decently well as long as the guy's not running full steam at him. I've seen him actually shed and tackle several times just because he's like has that. I think he's got that just solid core strength where he's just like he can anchor decently well. Maybe against smaller guards,
And
but
and he is a
he's good.
sideline to sideline backer. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no question for me there, and I thought his motor was impressive.
Mhm.
His effort is something to be commended.
Yeah, I think he was. He's one of these guys for me that is has potential to be a 3 down guy though.
I agree. I don't think he's there yet,
No.
but I think he could be. There is one other thing I did want to note about him that I've noticed. He does not play as well against good competition. Some of his worst games were against really good teams. He seemed to be a lot of his stats that just told you happened against teams that weren't as good, or at least didn't have the same type of competition. Which he still made some game changing plays, and I don't want to take that away from him. But the stats I felt changed quite a bit depending on who he played.
Yeah.
It was not very consistent.
I mean, sometimes it is also like that naturally. Sometimes you're going to be less productive because you're playing a better team. In the NFL, you see that a lot with corners. It all depends on who they play. Unless you're Sauce Gardner, then it doesn't matter who you play, but not everyone's Sauce.
But both of our number
Yeah.
ones.
Okay, so you had the same one as I do.
Well, that's what.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
we both
Okay.
absolutely agree on our number one, and it's I think the freak athleticism of this player is hard to deny.
Yeah.
Whether you agree on some that I think are a little bit of a red flag with him, the freak athlete that is Edgerrin Cooper
Yeah.
out of Texas A&M.
I mean,
He's wow. There's a lot. I think this guy, from a athleticism standpoint, is
like
a step or two above everybody.
he's like a little rabid beast back there sometimes. Like
He's
he's
not
just
little though.
well, he's not little. But
He was pretty high on the freaks list
I mean
this
he's
year,
athletic as
and
shit.
he
Like
is.
and he's not even I don't even think he even has that he doesn't even have that low of a floor as most of the other
No,
guys like that,
I
which is
think
crazy.
he might be the only player in this draft that I see as an easy second round pick. To me, he's a solid second round pick, and I think he's the
1000%.
only one that I could see somebody taking late in the first round. I don't think it'll happen, but I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, we saw Jack Campbell do it last year, and I didn't think a linebacker was going to go in the first round last year. But you know what? If you want to take the best player on the board at a position, I'm never going to knock you. I don't care what the position is, unless we're talking special teams. I mean, I get it.
It's funny because like I feel like a lot of things we're going to say about Edgerrin Cooper though is going to be the same. We're going to be talking about a lot of the other thumpers in the back that we were talking about. The difference is if you watch him play, there's a tangible difference.
Oh yeah,
like we can give you we can list off where we think his strengths and weaknesses are, and it's going to sound like what I was saying about Tommy Eichenberg. Though I do think he covers way better than Tommy.
yeah, I agree. Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
like
He's definitely
all
better.
these attacking guys, like I was saying about Cedric Gray. I think he's way better and as
He
being an attacker than he's just like he takes Cedric. If
he's
Cedric Gray is like an 8 in his aggressive attackness level, dial that shit up to 10 for him.
Put him to 11.
You want to jump up to 11? Throw
Yeah,
him
you
up
want
to
to put him
11.
at
I don't
11.
care. He's awesome. He's highly
He
instinctual.
scares quarterbacks.
He does. Well, he scares everyone.
You could like the way I saw a few quarterbacks react to him was like a shark was in front of him. I mean, like there was fear in certain quarterbacks' eyes.
Yeah.
That I don't really want to name off on this list. I mean, that I watched that I was like, you were terrified of him.
Oh yeah.
He definitely brought a terror that I don't know if I've ever seen from a linebacker to a quarterback. It was really interesting to me. It was I found it
because they know if they leave if the O line has an opening, he's going to be on them in like half a second.
Oh yeah, and
his closing speed is crazy.
It is. It's. I mean, he's like a wild animal coming at you.
He is. It's like the only like the reason we're talking about him and he's not like we're trying to glow him up because he is our number one. And the reason he's not in round one for me is that when you do watch him, he's still a little bit undisciplined because he wants to attack so much. So he does find he's so aggressive sometimes. I think he puts himself out of the play. I think he could use a little bit more discipline in that regard.
And also,
I don't think he has the strength to fully stack and shed consistently, as far as I could tell. Or I don't know what it is with him because it's like when he gets blocked, I can't tell what he's trying to do. Is he trying to just lose the blocker?
I think his technique could get better in pass rush.
I'm talking about I'm talking about run in the run game. If
getting
a guy's
off
coming
of
out,
blocks is definitely something I noticed he could work on. But I thought his decision making was probably second or third.
Yeah, I mean,
in this class,
I don't think he's the most smartest player,
but I definitely think there's.
If you want a smart player, you throw in Cedric. You put in Gray. You put in Peyton Wilson. You throw in. I mean, Eichenberg's pretty smart,
but not as
JD's smart. But I think those guys are smarter. But I think he is not far enough behind him to consider it a true weakness for him.
They also, I had to go back and watch a little more tape on him because, Texas A&M is a team that I've been keeping an eye on certain players over time, like Perry and Winfrey. I really liked a lot just because he reminded me so much of Stephon Tuitt. So I spent a lot of time on certain players in a few years who played for Texas A&M. And I never remember seeing him. And I thought with his athleticism, he would be somebody on tape that I'd be like, whoa, who is that guy? The problem is I feel like this year he shot to the moon. And the 2-3 years before that, he didn't as much. I also see a lack of use in coverage from him. They definitely like to use him more as a blitz guy, run defense guy. And,
when we do see him in coverage, though,
he's not terrible.
He's not. Well, I don't even think I think he's good.
Yeah.
He's not he's in a.
Well, I'm worried about how it translates.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially some of the teams he plays against.
Position not to make the play, but just to make it tougher throw on the QB. He's going to force a tight window throw up the middle because he's so quick. He's already in that window, and they're all like, "Oh shit!" So they have to. He kind of messes up the throw just by tightening the windows quicker than they think.
I mean, I see elite athleticism. I cannot emphasize that enough. I mean, he's really impressive from an athleticism standpoint. I think his intimidation is insanely impressive. And, I thought he was my number one tackler. I know you don't agree with me, and that's totally fine. I'm not saying there's a Junior Colson you had as your number one.
Yeah, he was my number one.
Trust me, he's a great tackler too, but there was the technique I saw from Cooper was fantastic as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it was, exactly what you want to see in a lot of cases.
I mean, there were some back end guys I thought were also pretty good tacklers. They just didn't have anything else.
Yeah,
I thought Nathaniel Watson was a pretty consistent tackler. He just was never good in position. And Peyton Wilson, I thought, was a better tackler than him. But
Nathaniel Watson, he was slow though.
He was slow. He
was annoyingly slow.
Yeah. I'm not saying the reason he's not on my list, and he's probably not even.
He's not even highest.
I don't even know if he's top 15 on this list for me, but
Nathaniel Watson actually had my highest points for sacks, turnovers, and interceptions. He did have a lot of sacks. I think he had 9 sacks or something.
just
It
didn't
was
like how
signi
slow he was
it was
too.
significant,
Like there's a reason
and
he was like
he played a lot too.
towards the bottom, but
But yeah, he was slow and he
yeah,
reacted slow as well.
yeah,
But back to
so,
Edrin Cooper here. I rated him as pretty much top in every category. I mean, he was to me one of the fastest players. His decision making was one of the best. His run defense was tied for my best ranking. His pass rush was second best. You know, he had of the top 10, he had the highest as far as sacks, turnovers, and forced fumbles for me. And his size, you know, was the second best. You know, there was a lot to really like. It was easy to make him my highest graded player, and I feel like I was a little tougher on my grading for him just because the common national theme is him being the best linebacker.
right.
You know, and I need to make sure that I'm not just following the trends.
Yeah,
But he
he's really
definitely
good.
is the best.
I always thought had probably the best. I think he was the best run defender for me. I think he was the best. Okay, well, if I'm just going to mark him with anything as the best anyway, because when we're doing the run defense, he was pretty even with all the rest of them.
He hits
And
gaps
when I'm
though
talking about
so well.
when I'm talking about the best at something, I think he was the best instincts. He has the best instincts in this draft.
I can
Like
agree. Yeah,
so,
I do think
like he's like 5 points better than most everyone else. Like for
agreed.
me, I graded him with more discipline than I let on. Like he is. I'm not saying he's undisciplined at all. Like he is really disciplined.
But
It's just
watching him in
when he gets
20
too aggressive, it does take him out. That's all I'm saying.
watching him in 2021 and 2022 made me a little nervous because you just don't see as much out of him as you do in his final year. And I
Yeah.
don't know if it's just because there was a bunch of other playmakers around him, like that strong safety last year. What's his name? Anthony something. The strong safety. I liked him a lot too for
Yeah.
very similar reasons as, you know, tough hitter, good motor type guy. I mean, he's the only guy on this
Talking about
list.
Antonio Johnson, right?
Antonio Johnson, that's who it was. But this is the only guy on my list I see as an early second round pick.
Yeah.
I
I have him.
see
Yeah.
a few of these guys going late second round.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't blame people, but he is the only one to me that is a solid second round pick.
Yeah.
And I would not be shocked if he was taken in the first round based on his athleticism.
Yeah. I mean, and just because of how I think dry this draft class is, because it's
It
like
is a dry class, but man, that
like
top
sometimes you're just gonna want to reach a little bit more for ones of these more athletic guys that we know can produce. Like I can see people talking themselves into drafting him early in the later in the first
the
round.
thing
Like,
is
but
though, I was thinking about this too because, you know, as I've told you from the beginning, like when I first started watching linebackers, I was pretty disappointed with the first 10, other than Wallace. Was it
yeah,
Trevin
Trevin
Wallace?
Wallace.
He was
Yeah,
the only one in the first 10 I watched. I was like, ugh, this is hard to watch. But, you know, usually I find that there's
right.
four players that I'm like, these guys I can see as starters. In this class, I think I see five, including
That's
Wilson.
okay. That's
Like
fair.
Eichenberg, I think I can leave off of that.
If you
Even
want,
though
if you want him on, I mean, you can.
I ranked him higher than Wilson, I don't think he's the better player. I just think it's unfair to
It's
give
just a
Wilson the
risk,
credit
right?
with the risks in mind. From Wilson forward, you know, minus Eichenberg, I wouldn't be shocked if all these guys were at least the second middle linebacker on a defense.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
I think there's a lot of talent at the top to
yeah,
like, and I think a lot of upside in a
yeah.
lot of these players.
I mean, a lot of these guys for me are very developmental on the top. They're gonna need work. I think Edrin Cooper could be a day one impact. I think Peyton Wilson could be a day one impact as long as everyone's like if he's healthy, he's a day one impact. Cedric Gray, I think he could be a
I don't
day
think
one
he's day one.
impact.
He's my favorite.
Well, I don't think he's a day one impact.
But I think his
I think
ceiling,
he's a guy who could plug a hole if he's needed this first year though.
I just
He's
think
smart
he's
enough to
so
do that.
versatile. Like I think of guys like
Colson though, he needs to develop.
agreed.
I don't want to start Colson first year. I don't want to start Maurice his first year.
No way.
Like Trevin, I would only throw in on certain down or packages that you're just going to throw
you
him out.
liked him a lot more than I did.
Right, but I'm not putting he's not I'd be lying if I said I can see him as a 3-down backer. But you're going to throw him in at packages. I think he can be an impact player his first year.
And you know, And like I said, I mean, my favorite player, Gray, I don't see as a day one starter. But man, I see a lot of things in players in past drafts, like Jermaine Pratt and TJ Edwards. And there's other guys like this that are just all around. There's a lot to like.
Right.
And that's really what brings me back to Gray being my favorite. I mean, like I said, the freak athlete that we have at number one, you can't deny
Yeah.
that kind of talent.
You're going to take a swing in a second round for someone,
He's
and you
an
want to
easy choice.
you want to make sure you're getting someone who can have some impact, and you just need to get your hands on a solid athlete at the position that is smart and he wants to start. He wants to play and throw everything out there his body can handle.
And
he's going to be the guy, and I like that. And I think I think all these guys are day twos, and I think at this point, if a lot of these guys get taken day two, these top 6, top 5, whoever you want to consider the tier, like if we're going through our top 5s each, we'll just say our top 5, 6. If they get taken day 2, they all get taken, then I'm not drafting any of these guys probably until round like 5 or 6, because I'm not. And the rest of them, like I don't want to. They're all going to get taken.
And another thing to keep in mind here, I would not say either of our picks are concreted in yet. I mean, if there's one thing that I do specifically, I really, I watch a lot of tape of players, and I'll be like, I didn't watch this player play this game, and I don't like this about him. And you'll start to notice things like a guy for me last year is Julius Brents, who I had a high grade on coming in. I really loved his size and all that. Then I watched him play against TCU, and I saw him get bullied quite a bit. And I was like, I didn't see these plays. And it's like, this just changes things a little bit for me. And it's like when you see an undersized guy getting bullied by bullying a very big corner, it's a little concerning. Not that I didn't still like him coming out, but he definitely dropped for me based on that. And we still have the combine coming up.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. That might change some things for me.
I still got to go back and really dig deep into the Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl. I mean, I've done quite a bit on the Senior Bowl, but I did not watch the Shrine Bowl yet, so I got to see guys in there. So there's plenty of potential for some of these guys to shift.
You go on the Shrine Bowl, you're looking for gold. You're digging.
I love.
You're gonna search for it.
You know me.
I do like. I mean, that's where I saw Kobe Turner. So that's how I was like, ooh.
I mean,
Kobe.
Later round guys like Tariq Woolen originally, who was, I believe, projected as a 6th round pick in January of last year or 2 years ago. I mean, he went from a 6th round pick to
5th. I think he was a 5th round pick.
Yeah, but they were projecting him in a lot of cases to a 2nd or 3rd.
Oh, really?
And I think his performance on the field his rookie year said everything you need to see.
Yeah.
Hopefully he holds up.
But I mean, basically, linebackers, you need one. There's a lot of different flavors out there right now, and I just don't. If you need one to start, I wouldn't be too excited about. Pretty much, there's a lot of red flags on all of them. So question marks galore. But
and
I think there's some guys taking shots on for sure.
And based on the lack of talent, lack of depth of this class, I wouldn't also be shocked if in the early 3rd round we see a run, because there's a lot of linebacker needy teams.
This would be totally the type of draft where it's like, all right, we're getting 3rd down pick section, and all of a sudden the whole comp picks is all linebackers.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Like you don't want these guys going into the 4th round because you want to make sure you get them.
Well, like I said, our top 5, I do not see leaving the 3rd round.
Yeah,
I don't.
Absolutely. Well, all right, bud. Well,
yeah, that's going to end it for us today.
Goddamn linebackers.
I
thought this was going to be a slog, so at least there's a lot of exciting guys up top.
But now, our next podcast is it's going to be a lot of debating. I can just feel it already, because
debating
wide receivers. It's pick your flavor.
Oh my god,
it really is more than any position. In my opinion,
it's so deep. I don't even know if I'll be so too tired to debate you, to be honest.
Yeah, we might have to do our top 50 in that.
Top 15. This thing's already going almost to an hour and a half 50. Again, bud. This is already going to an hour and a half.
and it was a very weak depth. It was very weak in depth.
Goddamn, kill me. All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
We love you.